3 in the morning, the house is silent, your spouse is asleep beside you, but you are wide awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why this keeps happening. If that sounds familiar, please don't scroll past this video. What I'm about to share may be the missing piece you've been searching for, and stick around, because the real reason most seniors wake up at 3 a.m. is not what you think it is. Hello and welcome back. I'm Dr. Alex Mandell, and for years I've sat across from patients in my clinic who all describe the exact same thing. They fall asleep just fine, but somewhere between 2 and 4 in the morning, their eyes snap open, and no matter how hard they try, sleep doesn't come back easily. If this is you, I want you to know something important right away. You are not broken, you are not alone, and in most cases, this is not something you simply have to accept as just getting older. I've noticed something over the years. So many of my patients wait months, sometimes years, before mentioning this to me because they assume it's just a normal, unfixable part of aging, or because they don't want to seem like they're complaining. But when we finally do talk about it and we work through what's really going on, the change in their daily life is often remarkable. More energy in the afternoons, more patience with grandchildren, more confidence getting behind the wheel or walking around the block. That's really what today's conversation is about, not just sleep for its own sake, but everything good sleep quietly makes possible. Today, we're going to walk through exactly why this happens, the surprising causes hiding behind it, and the simple steps that have helped my own patients get their nights and their mornings back. I'll share some real stories from my own practice along the way, because I find that hearing how this shows up in someone else's life often makes it much easier to recognize in our own. Before we go further, if you find this helpful, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It genuinely helps other seniors and families find this information when they need it most. Now, let's get into it, because the first reason might surprise you. I remember speaking with a patient, let's call her Dorothy, a 74-year-old retired school teacher who came to see me with her daughter sitting quietly beside her. Dorothy told me she used to sleep through the night without any trouble at all, but over the past 2 years, she found herself waking up at almost the exact same time every single night. Her daughter had noticed something too. Dorothy seemed more tired during the day, more forgetful, and less interested in her morning walks with her grandchildren. She thought it was simply part of getting older, but what I told her that day changed the way she looked at her sleep completely. Here's the simple truth, and I want you to really hear this part. As we age, the part of our brain that regulates our internal clock naturally becomes a little less precise. This means our sleep becomes lighter and more easily interrupted than it was when we were younger. It's not a flaw and it's not a failure on your part. It's simply biology shifting with age. But here's what most people don't realize. This lighter sleep is only part of the story. The real question isn't why your sleep became lighter. It's what is happening at 3 a.m. specifically that's pulling you out of it. And that answer involves something happening inside your body that has almost nothing to do with your bedroom, your mattress, or your bedtime routine. We'll get to that shortly. Let's pause here for a myth versus fact moment, because I hear this one constantly in my practice. Myth: waking up in the middle of the night means you're a light sleeper, and there's nothing you can do about it. Fact: while some age-related changes to sleep are normal, frequent 3 a.m. wake-ups are very often linked to specific identifiable causes, and many of them can be improved once you know what to look for. That's exactly what we're uncovering together today. Now, you might be wondering something very reasonable. Why 3 a.m. and not 1 a.m. or 5 a.m.? Here's the simple explanation. Sleep happens in cycles, moving between lighter stages and deeper stages roughly every 90 minutes throughout the night. In the first half of the night, we spend more time in deep restorative sleep, but as the night goes on, our sleep naturally shifts toward lighter stages, and by the early morning hours, we spend more time in this lighter, more easily disrupted sleep. For many people, that shift lines up almost exactly with the 2 to 4 in the morning window. As we age, this lighter portion of sleep tends to take up a larger share of the night, which is part of why so many seniors notice their wake-ups clustering around that same time. Understanding this alone brought Dorothy a strange sense of relief. She told me, I thought something was wrong with me specifically. I didn't realize this was actually a pattern. But knowing the pattern is only step one. The real value comes from identifying which of the specific triggers we're about to cover is affecting you personally, because the solution is different for each one. One of my patients, a 78-year-old retired mechanic I'll refer to as Frank, told me something that so many seniors experience but rarely mention out loud. He said, "Doc, I wake up needing the bathroom almost every single night, and by the time I get back to bed, I just can't fall back asleep." His wife had noticed he seemed more irritable during the day, and his son had started worrying about him getting up in the dark, especially after a small stumble one night on the way to the bathroom. What happened next surprised even his family, because once we addressed the real issue, Frank's nights changed dramatically. This is called nocturia, and it simply means needing to urinate more frequently at night. As we age, our bodies produce a hormone that helps concentrate urine at night a little less efficiently, and the bladder itself can become slightly more sensitive. For men, an enlarged prostate can also play a role, and for women, changes after menopause can affect bladder control. The good news is that nocturia is one of the most treatable causes of middle-of-the-night waking, and a conversation with your doctor about fluid timing, certain medications, and simple bladder habits can make a real difference. But here's something most seniors completely miss. Nocturia isn't always about the bladder itself. Sometimes the real trigger is something happening in a completely different system of the body. Let's talk about that next. Quick reminder before we continue, if this information feels useful to you or if it reminds you of someone you love, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more seniors and families who need this exact conversation. Now let's continue, because the next cause is one that catches even health-conscious seniors completely off guard. I once had a patient, a sharp, independent 69-year-old woman I'll call Linda, who managed her own household, drove herself everywhere, and prided herself on her independence. She came to me confused because she kept waking up around 3 a.m., feeling shaky, slightly sweaty, and unusually anxious for no clear reason. Her daughter had gently suggested it might be just stress, but Linda knew something felt physically different. She thought it was normal aging, but what we discovered surprised her completely. In some seniors, especially those managing blood sugar levels, glucose can dip slightly during the overnight hours, and this drop can trigger the body to release stress hormones that wake you up suddenly, sometimes with a racing heart or a feeling of unease. This doesn't only affect people with diagnosed diabetes. It can happen with certain eating patterns, skipped dinners, or specific medications. To be clear, this is something to discuss directly with your doctor, especially if you take medication for blood sugar, because timing and dosage matter and should never be adjusted without medical guidance. What matters most here is awareness, because once Linda's doctor reviewed her evening routine and medication timing with her, her 3 a.m. wake-ups became far less frequent. But blood sugar wasn't the only hidden factor working against her sleep. There was something else, something many families never even think to ask about. Let me tell you about a patient I'll call Margaret, a warm 76-year-old grandmother who loved nothing more than having her grandchildren over for weekend sleepovers. Her family started noticing something concerning. She seemed exhausted even after what looked like a full night's sleep, and she sometimes dozed off mid-conversation during the day. Her grandson, of all people, was the one who mentioned it first. "Grandma, you snore really loud, and sometimes it sounds like you stop breathing for a second." That small comment from a child ended up being the key to everything. What Margaret's grandson noticed is a red flag for something called sleep apnea, a condition where breathing briefly stops and starts during sleep. This can cause the brain to wake up slightly, sometimes without you even realizing it, just enough to disrupt deep sleep, and often around the same time each night. Sleep apnea becomes more common as we age, and it is frequently underdiagnosed in older adults because people assume snoring and daytime tiredness are simply signs of getting older. The encouraging part of Margaret's story is that a simple sleep evaluation identified the issue, and with proper treatment, her energy, her mood, and her nights improved significantly. Her family said it felt like getting the old Margaret back, but there's one more piece to this puzzle that has nothing to do with the body at all, and it might be the most overlooked cause of all. Before we move into that, I want to pause again for a quick reminder. If you're finding value in this, please like, share, and subscribe. Many seniors watching this don't have anyone explaining these things to them clearly, and sharing this video could genuinely help someone in your own family. Now let's talk about the mind, because what happens in your thoughts at night can be just as powerful as what happens in your body. His children noticed something was changing in their father, a proud, independent 81-year-old man I'll call Walter, a retired postal worker who had lived alone since his wife passed away. He wasn't in physical pain, and his health checkups were largely normal, but he kept waking at the same time every night with his mind racing bills, loneliness, memories, worries about his health, worries about becoming a burden to his children. He told me quietly, "Doc, the nights are when it all comes rushing in." What happened next surprised even me, because it wasn't a pill that helped Walter most. It was a conversation and a plan. Here's something important to understand. Our stress hormone, cortisol, naturally rises slightly in the early morning hours as part of a normal biological rhythm. In someone dealing with grief, loneliness, or anxiety, this natural rise can intersect with emotional stress and pull a person into full wakefulness, often bringing racing thoughts along with it. This is incredibly common in seniors, especially after the loss of a spouse, a change in living situation, or health worries, and it deserves just as much attention and compassion as any physical cause. For Walter, connecting with a counselor, staying socially engaged with a local senior group, and creating a simple wind-down routine before bed made a real difference over time. His daughter told me she noticed him seeming lighter, more like himself within just a few weeks. But there's one more everyday factor that trips up even seniors who are doing everything else right, and it's sitting in almost every medicine cabinet. One of my patients, a meticulous 70-year-old former accountant I'll call Robert, did everything by the book. He exercised, ate well, and took his medications exactly as prescribed. Yet he still woke up like clockwork at 3 a.m., and it frustrated him because he felt he was doing everything right. His wife noticed he'd become short-tempered from exhaustion, which wasn't like him at all. What we discovered was surprisingly simple, and it's something I see overlooked constantly. Certain common medications, including some blood pressure medications, diuretics, and even certain over-the-counter supplements can affect sleep depending on what time of day they're taken. Even something as ordinary as an evening cup of tea or a glass of wine can quietly disrupt the deeper stages of sleep without you ever connecting the dots. This doesn't mean you should stop or change any medication on your own. Please never do that. What it means is that a simple medication review with your doctor or pharmacist focused specifically on timing can sometimes resolve a middle-of-the-night wake-up pattern that has lasted for months or even years. For Robert, a small adjustment made with his doctor's guidance was enough to give him back his uninterrupted nights. Now that we've covered the most common hidden causes, let's talk about what you can actually do starting tonight. Quick reminder again, if you've made it this far, you clearly care about your health or the health of someone you love. So please take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share it with a family member. It truly helps. Now, let's move into the practical part of today's conversation. Before we move on, I want to ask you something directly. Think back to the last time you woke up at 3 a.m. Were you thirsty, needing the bathroom, warm, or maybe a little cold? Was your mind racing about something specific, or did you wake up for no clear reason at all? Hold on to that answer, because by the end of this video, you may realize exactly which of these causes applies to you, and that single realization is often the first real step toward fixing it. I had a patient, a lovely 73-year-old widow I'll refer to as Helen, who lived in a beautiful old house she and her late husband had shared for over 40 years. She told me she'd wake up most nights feeling either too warm or oddly chilled, and she assumed it was simply hot flashes that never went away or her body playing tricks on her. Her son, who checked in on her often, mentioned that her bedroom always seemed to run warm, especially compared to the rest of the house. She thought it was normal aging, but what we found was refreshingly simple. As we get older, our bodies become slightly less efficient at regulating temperature, which means a bedroom that feels comfortable to a younger person might feel too warm to an older adult. And that small difference can be enough to trigger a wake up in the middle of the night. A cooler room, breathable bedding, and even something as simple as a small fan can make a noticeable difference. Helen made a few small adjustments, a cooler thermostat setting at night, and lighter blankets, and within about 2 weeks, she told her son she was sleeping like she used to 20 years ago. It's a small detail, but small details are often exactly where the answer is hiding. Now, let's put everything together into a clear plan you can start using tonight. I want to walk you through the same simple, realistic steps I share with my own patients. Nothing extreme, nothing complicated, just small changes that add up. First, pay attention to your evening fluids. Try to reduce liquids, especially caffeine and alcohol, in the 2 to 3 hours before bed. This simple habit alone has helped many of my patients reduce nighttime bathroom trips significantly. Second, keep a consistent wake-up time, even on days when sleep felt rough the night before. It sounds counterintuitive, but a steady wake time actually helps stabilize your internal clock over time, more than a steady bedtime does. Third, if your mind tends to race at night like Walter's did, try keeping a small notepad by your bed. Writing down a worry or a to-do item can signal to your brain that it's been captured and doesn't need to be replayed on a loop at 3 a.m. Fourth, take snoring seriously, especially if a family member has mentioned pauses in your breathing. This is not something to brush off as simply getting older. It's worth a conversation with your doctor about a sleep evaluation. Fifth, if you wake up and can't fall back asleep within 20 to 30 minutes, get up, sit somewhere calm and dimly lit, and do something quiet and non-stimulating like reading a few pages of a book. Lying in bed frustrated often makes the wakefulness worse, not better. Sixth, take a look at your bedroom environment the way we discussed with Helen. A slightly cooler room, comfortable bedding, and minimal light from clocks or electronics can make a bigger difference than most people expect. And finally, and this is the one I cannot stress enough, bring this pattern up with your doctor. Waking at 3 a.m. regularly is not something you need to simply accept. It can be a signal worth exploring, whether it turns out to be related to sleep, medication, blood sugar, mood, or something else entirely. You deserve real answers, not just reassurance to give it time. Bring a simple sleep log if you can, just a few notes on when you woke up, how you felt, and anything unusual you noticed. That small piece of information can help your doctor connect the dots far more quickly than you might expect. I also want to gently address something I hear often from proud independent seniors. I don't want to bother my doctor with something so small. Please hear me on this. Your sleep is not a small thing. It affects your memory, your mood, your balance, and your ability to keep doing the things and seeing the people you love. Bringing this up is not bothering your doctor. It's exactly the kind of conversation your doctor wants to have with you. I want to be honest with you about something. In my years of practice, I've seen how poor sleep quietly chips away at a senior's confidence and independence long before anyone notices what's really happening. It shows up as forgetting a name during a family dinner, feeling too tired for a walk with the grandkids, or turning down an invitation because I just don't have the energy. Families often notice these small changes before the person experiencing them does, and it can create quiet worry on both sides, the senior feeling like a burden and the family feeling helpless to explain what's changing. This is exactly why understanding your 3 a.m. wake-ups matters so much. It's not just about sleep, it's about protecting your energy, your independence, your patience with the people you love, and your ability to keep doing the things that make life feel full. Think about what a good night's sleep actually gives you. It's the steadiness to walk down the stairs without feeling unsteady on your feet. It's the patience to sit through a long phone call with your grandchildren without feeling foggy or short-tempered. It's the confidence to drive yourself to church, to the grocery store, or to see a friend instead of feeling like you need to ask for a ride because you're simply too tired to trust yourself behind the wheel. Sleep is not a luxury at this stage of life. It is one of the quiet foundations that everything else is built on. I've watched patients regain not just energy, but a sense of themselves once their nights improved. Dorothy told me months after we first spoke that she'd started taking her morning walks again with her grandchildren, something she'd quietly given up without even realizing how much she missed it. That's what we're really working toward here, not just better sleep for its own sake, but a fuller, more connected daily life. One more myth versus fact before we wrap up, because this one comes up almost every week in my office. Myth: sleeping pills are the only real solution for frequent nighttime waking. Fact: for many seniors, sleep medications carry meaningful risks, including next-day grogginess, balance problems, and a higher chance of falls, and they often don't address the underlying cause we've spent today talking about. That doesn't mean medication is never appropriate. Sometimes it is, and that's a decision to make carefully with your doctor. But identifying and addressing the actual cause, whether it's your bladder, your blood sugar, your breathing, your mind, your medication, or your bedroom environment, is almost always a more lasting solution than reaching for a pill first. So here's the single most important thing I want you to remember from everything we've discussed today. Waking up at 3 a.m. is common, but it is not something you have to simply live with. Whether the cause turns out to be your bladder, your blood sugar, your breathing, your mind, or your medication, there is almost always a next step that can help. The seniors I've worked with who saw the biggest improvement in their nights were the ones who stopped assuming it was just age and started asking questions. I hope this video has helped you feel confident enough to ask. Dorothy, Frank, Linda, Margaret, Walter, Robert, and Helen are not their real names, but their stories reflect real patterns I see again and again in patients just like you. If any part of their journey felt familiar tonight, I want you to know that better sleep and the independence and energy that come with it is absolutely possible at any age. This isn't about chasing perfect sleep every single night. It's about understanding your own body a little better, noticing the patterns, and knowing that you have real options instead of simply enduring it. Please talk to your doctor about what you learned here today, and don't be afraid to advocate for yourself or for the senior in your life who might be struggling silently with this exact issue. If you're watching this on behalf of a parent or a loved one, consider sitting down with them this week, even just for a few minutes, and asking gently, have you been waking up at night lately? You might be surprised by what you learn, and that simple question could be the beginning of a real improvement in their daily life. If this video helped you, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more honest, simple conversations about senior health, and share it with a family member who needs to hear this tonight. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm Dr. Alex Mandell, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll talk about another everyday health concern that affects far more seniors than most people realize. Take care of yourself, and I truly hope tonight brings you a full, peaceful night's sleep.